So for more, it's a pleasure to welcome to studio Lieutenant Colonel in the Reserves, Jonathan Conricus, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies and former IDF International Spokesperson, and Daniel Sheck, Director of Diplomacy at the Hostage and Missing Families Forum and former Israeli Ambassador to France. Gentlemen, thank you both so much. So Damascus is not happy with this trip. We just saw there Benjamin Netanyahu and the top brass thanking soldiers in that very crucial buffer zone. What do you make of what is going down there, the significance right now?
Well, for one, the assessment must have been that it's a safe place to be because Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Defense, Head of Shabak, and various Israeli generals
they were all
in
there.
One location. So obviously, apparently, the intel assessment was that the situation is under control and that it is 100% safe to be there. Otherwise, it would have been a very risky and foolish thing to have so many important people in one place. More to the matter, I think this is an attempt by Israel to indicate to the Syrian leadership that Israel is intending to stay in that buffer zone. This is one of those new positions that Israel took control over after the regime in Syria fell. And the message here is pretty clear. We're here, we're prepared to stay. If we need to stay for a really long time, then we will do so. And I think the demand here from the new Syrian regime is that there needs to be a security buffer zone in between the Israeli border, the actual Israeli border, 1974 ceasefire zone, and somewhere towards Damascus. Otherwise, the risk for Israel is too big. And I think what Israel is signaling is that we're going to hold on to this until the situation on the ground is really clear and safe for Israelis.
And talking about risks being real, as we turn our attention slightly, more Israeli airstrikes across the northern front. The IDF has today launched a wave of strikes on Hezbollah targets in two villages in southern Lebanon after issuing evacuation warnings. They're part of a series of strikes in the past 24 hours targeting terror infrastructure belonging to Hamas or Hezbollah. So, Jonathan Conricus, those terror threats persist. The IDF completing this wave of airstrikes against Hezbollah weapons depots in southern Lebanon. Your sense, is this one step closer to a broader escalation once again across that front?
It looks like mowing the lawn, and it looks like standard Israeli operations against Hezbollah attempts to violate the ceasefire agreement, to redeploy in the south, to refurbish or re-establish their presence in various, of course, as always, civilian houses in Lebanon. It all looks civilian, and what Israel struck appeared to be a civilian house, only that it was used by Hezbollah. But actually, the more interesting action, I think, took place when Israel struck the el-Hilwe, so-called refugee camp, administered by, no surprise, UNRWA, and a fertile breeding ground for terrorists. And that was quite an unusual strike. And I would connect, the basis for that was imminent intel of an imminent attack that was being prepared from that by Hamas, ordered from Gaza, but prepared in Lebanon in order to attack Israel from the north. And that was quite an unusual strike. And I'd connect the bigger picture here with the efforts in Lebanon that are stalling quite a bit, where the Lebanese government, according to the agreement, is supposed to disarm Hezbollah. That isn't really happening. And Hezbollah, Naim Qassem said just a week ago, we're not going to disarm of our weapons. And if you think so, you're in for a surprise. That's a situation that is very dangerous. And what Israel is doing is actually taking steps in order to have everybody understand that we're not going to tolerate the situation. The Lebanese are complaining, condemning, but they're doing it at very low volume and low key. And I personally believe that they would be very happy if Israel did the heavy lifting and the dirty work for them, disarming Hezbollah and disarming Hamas and other rogue factions, because it appears as if they have run out of steam or political capacity to do so themselves.
But what is abundantly clear is that Hezbollah certainly is not disarming.
No doubt about that.
Juncture, no doubt. Before October 7th, reports suggested that those deals were imminent between Jerusalem and Riyadh. Then, of course, we know what happened. It's more than 2 years now. And we heard the rhetoric there out of the White House. What does it mean for Israel? How important strategically would those normalization deals be right now?
So there's a lot to unpack here. And Mike's report was really compelling. I'd say the following. There's winners of this meeting. That's bin Salman himself. Great win for him. Gets a security deal with the US, gets global recognition, gets forgiven and washed clear of the Khashoggi event, at least at the presidential level, and that indicates the vector. And he delivers remarks in English for the first time on a global scale, and credit to him for all of those things. Losers probably would be Israel, sadly. It saddens me to say, but we're not getting anything in return for this happening. Not that Israel really had a say and not that Israel had leverage over it, but we told ourselves, and we were told by none other than the Prime Minister, that indeed that would be the arrangement and that is what would eventually happen. Security guarantees for the Saudis, which is what the Saudis wanted, and that would mean normalization with Israel and Abraham Accords. Sadly, that didn't happen. Now, F-35s is a concern, and Mike is spot on in terms of the qualitative military edge. I'm less concerned about F-35s in the hands of the Saudis. I am much more concerned about the fungible nature that with which the president looks at this asset, this mighty fifth-generation aircraft, and I'm very concerned that it may find itself sold to the Turks, for instance. Now, that would be a clear and blatant threat towards Israel. Saudi is one thing. I don't think that they have the same level of hostility and negative intentions towards Israel. Turkey definitely has, and I hope that this won't expand further. Nuclear power has been on the wish lists of the Saudis for a long, long time. 2 years ago, most people would scoff and, joke about the Saudis wanting nuclear research on their soil. I understand, based on a statement by the Secretary of Energy, that it's not going to be enrichment on Saudi soil, which is really the core matter. It's going to be about the provision of electricity, full stop. If there's any type of breach from that, any additional deviation from protocol, Saudis wanting enrichment on Saudi soil, that could mean a whole new chapter in the Middle East. Egypt, Turkey, and many other countries would be vying for the same things, and they would have a strong case in order to try to get it. So a lot has happened in the last few days. Just the scope of the delegation, more than 1,000 participants on the Saudi side, indicates what the ambassador just spoke about, the size and really the importance of the matter and how much is on the table, how much money, and what the Americans are interested in getting in return for this recognition.
Your thoughts right now? We have a minute left. Hamas being eliminated was supposed to be a goal of the war. Are you surprised at the strength it is showing right now in different parts of the region as we speak?
Yeah, they're not showing significant strength. It's, leftover capabilities, not really strong military capabilities. I don't see a certain strategy. It's local skirmishes at the tactical level. But every day that goes by and that international stabilization force isn't fielded, put on the ground with the clear directive and mandate, if we're talking in UN terms, Chapter 7, to use lethal force in order to implement the mandate, and in this case, the mandate will be to disarm Hamas. Every day that goes by and that doesn't happen is another day that Hamas will regain their capabilities, strengthen their hold over the civilian population, and make it more difficult to dismantle them once the time really comes.
Lieutenant Colonel in the Reserve, Jonathan Conricus, and Daniel Sheck, thank you both so much for being here to update us and give your insights on all these developing stories. Thank you.